Good morning. It is 9:58 a.m. on Saturday, July 21st, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellison. I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, because it's Saturday and because I assign these projects to myself, today I'm continuing my rewatch of the entire Venture Brothers series in preparation for the new season. And today I'm going to be talking about Season 4. Now, Season 4 is actually the longest of all of the seasons by substantial margin. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 all have 13 episodes. Seasons 5 and 6 get shorter, and they have only 8 episodes each. One of my neighbors is doing something that sounds like hammering or knocking or something, and they've been doing it a lot, and it's been kind of distracting. I'm not sure what's going on, but what are you going to do? Anyway, but compared to, seasons 5 and 6 being 8 episodes, 1, 2, 3 being 13 episodes, season 4 actually has 16 episodes, including the finale, Operation Prom, which is double length and was actually originally aired kind of separated from the rest of the season. They spread it out a little bit, maybe just because they knew that the next season was a ways off or something. The air schedule of this show has always been a little bit wacky. I mean, just to revisit the timeline, season 1 aired in 2003 and 2004. So that's, 15 years ago now. Season 2 aired in 2006. Season 3 in 2008. Season 4 across 2009 and 2010. And then season 5 was in 2013, 2014. So, and then season 6, 2015, 2016. And now we're going to get season 7 in 2018. So, that's how it goes. But anyway, season 4. Let's talk about season 4. So, season 3 really leaned into the idea of starting to move the family and all the characters forward from their starting positions as just subverted cliches of the adventure cartoon genre. But what with the end of season 3 disrupting a number of things, season 4 really leans into the idea of letting things change. And in particular, one big change, Brock Sampson quit. He is no longer the Venture family's bodyguard, and that's a big deal to the show. Now, I recall the discussion at the time partly being that the voice actor for Brock Sampson, who I know his name, and I'm suddenly blanking on the name. He's the guy who's playing the Tick now. No, not. He's not the guy playing the Tick. He's the guy who played the Tick in the. All right, well, I'm just going to move past that and not even look it up because it doesn't really matter, and I'm distracting myself with it. The point being, he was in less of the season, and I think that was just partly a virtue of him moving on to some bigger and better things and not having as much time. I'm not sure if that was really what was going on or what, but so Brock only appears in a handful of the episodes this season, but when he does show up, it's pretty great. So we see him joining Sphinx, which previously had been mentioned only as the kind of Cobra analog. If OSI is G.I. Joe, then Sphinx was Cobra, but now it turns out that Sphinx, the identity, all of the actual original Sphinx has been, subverted and taken over and eliminated, and so now the identity of Sphinx has been taken over by Colonel Hunter Gathers, no longer who had his sex change undone. And see, this is a little bit why deciding what gender to refer to Hunter as is complicated, because Hunter Gathers became a woman with the surgery, and then and then had the surgery undone. The show refers to Hunter as a he in this season when he is presenting as a man. But towards the end of the show, he freely admits that he misses it. He misses having his breasts, and so it's like, it's complicated. That's interesting there, and so Hunter remains a great character regardless of how you view Hunter's gender. So I mean, we could say she, given that the Hunter says at the end that there's a woman still inside trying to get out, but at the same time, characters in the show, Windows, please don't do that. Thank you. The show uses he, so that's easiest. So obviously that's a big change from last season, but now back on the good side, because it turns out it was all a secret ploy, or was it? It's complicated, but now Brock is off doing that. Now has a plate in his chest from the wound he suffered when the Monarch mobile exploded at the end of the last season. And of course that had another big change, killed 24. And that has sent 21 on this whole big journey now, where we meet 21 again now as he has become 2-ton 21. He is still a little pudgy, but he's gotten in shape. He's gotten strong. And he's been working hard, and he's become like a threat. And he's still a little goofy, but part of that is that he has been hallucinating, talking to his dead friend 24, and he kind of is going through a lot in this season. And we see him dealing with his love for Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. We see, and there's actually kind of a neat, interesting storyline with how she kind of reacts to that, because it's very clear that she appreciates him and even has some affection for him. There's the scene where the Monarch is currently comatose because he is off doing a mind assassin thing on Dr. Venture, and they've dressed in basically like sex play costumes. She's as like this sexy cheerleader, and he's in like leather gear, basically to try to fool the Moppets that they're not that the Monarch isn't doing the mind assassin thing. And then she gives him a little cheer because he's feeling kind of lost, and there's even a kiss. And but then it's revealed in the finale that she's basically treats that as like, I'm not leaving the Monarch. I mean, I love him. He's my husband, but, and then the Monarch's like, yeah, what are you talking about? We swing. And so, and that being kind of the final spurring for 21 of, first him learning definitively in this finale, Operation Prom, that, he's been feeling crazy all season, not sure if this ghost of 24 he is imagining is he a real ghost? Is he there? What's going on there? And to have it basically definitive that it must have all been in his head because of a misunderstanding. 21 himself thought that a particular character from a TV show was like the actor was dead, and finding out that he's not, and therefore meaning that it basically a misunderstanding proves that it was really just a hallucination and all in his head, and now that makes him go away. And then him briefly joining up with Sphinx to do a little bit of protecting instead of henching, and he kind of likes it. And so he officially quits. He quits pretty definitively, and that's pretty interesting for him. He's had this whole journey, and especially with him becoming like a gladiator at one point and killing poor Ghost Robot, which is one of the fun little side characters. We get all sorts of stuff going on. We also get lots of growth from Hank and Dean. Now that, especially as the end of season 3 definitively eliminated all of the remaining clones, it made it pretty straightforward that it's like, well, okay, yeah, these are the boys now. They don't continue to get reset over and over again anymore. And in fact, they officially graduate from their learning beds in this season, and we see them each developing further in their own way. First of all, we start with Dean, and kind of like at the end of last season, we see Dean first kind of regressing a little bit, honestly, because he starts becoming much more anxiety prone and, gaining a tendency to freeze up, as opposed to the sort of naive bravery that he used to have. He is starting to become aware of the real dangers of the world, and he's having trouble coping with it. And it's actually his father who kind of helps him through that a little bit. He starts, exploring his own intentions of, like, does he want to become a super scientist? His father seems pretty convinced that that's what he should do, but he's not so sure himself, and he's trying, exploring some new things, new ideas, and he's trying to find himself. He's a little bit more lost still. Whereas Hank, self-reflection has never been his strong suit, but there's a really fun plot line in this season where everyone still thinks of him as just a dope, but there's the point where, he finds Sphinx and basically talks them into giving him like a spy test, and they keep thinking that they're going to do something to him to just make him want to quit and leave, and he keeps defeating all the tests. Like his upbringing has actually really prepared him very well for this sort of a lifestyle, and all sorts of good stuff with the boys starting to grow up. The Monarch and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, are continuing, they don't change quite as much in this season, but, their relationship continues to be, an excellent source of drama, and lots of good stuff. There's just so much in this season that, we really develop further the idea of, okay, you have OSI and the League of Calamitous Intent, the Guild of Calamitous Intent. But then you also have, well, what about the bad guys who don't put on costumes and don't join the Guild? Well, Sphinx is going to fight those, and we're just growing the world bigger and bigger, getting stuff with Monstroso. We're increasingly developing, Billy and Pete White, and the show's cast of characters just keeps expanding and expanding, and they're all exciting and interesting, and I love it, and it just continues to develop. One of the things that I think has been an interesting discovery in rewatching it is that when I rewatched like seasons 1 through 3, I feel like maybe it's because I've rewatched those more often, and they feel familiar. Like, even though I know what happens, I have seen the later seasons, in my head, the early seasons still feel like that's the Venture Brothers. Like, somehow, like, that's the core, even though it develops later. And I think maybe part of that is just because I've seen those episodes more frequently each. I've rewatched them. Whereas, some of the later ones, I have only seen each of them once, perhaps. But what's interesting, it makes me think actually a little bit of the differences between having a puppy and having an older dog. Because puppies are certainly super cute, right? Like, they're wonderfully cute little things, and they're so silly, and there's a lot of excitement about it. Everything is new and exciting, and there's a lot of appeal there. But it's also true that with an adult dog that you've had for a while and you've developed that relationship. And it's not new and exciting as much anymore, but there's a familiarity and a nuance to it that's really great. And so that's a little bit like what rewatching this series feels like. You know, like the earlier seasons, it just feels like every episode is some new cool thing happening. And then in the later seasons, it's taking this world that it's created and developing it. And it's, you know, so we spend the first couple of seasons making our horizons wider, but now we're going deeper. I like the show. So next week I will be talking about season 5, and then the week after that, season 6, and then on August 5th, season 7 will premiere. So pretty exciting. So in the meantime, tomorrow I will be continuing my rewatch of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya with the episode entitled The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya Part 4. And in the meantime, generally, I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.